Hello, everyone. Yes, we've been having some technical issues here. Let's see if I'm going to be able to catch Roger into this chat that I'm going to have. But we've been having some technical issues, and hopefully we can fix that on time. Then I'll be talking to Roger Gracie. And for a lot of you guys, most of our talk will be in English, but we'll speak some Portuguese on there. But I'm just expecting to see, because we've been having some issues through the day. But yes, I'm gonna be talking to one of the best Jiu-Jitsu fighters on earth. He won everything, but not just the fact the way he won, but just how he did it. And let's see, and hopefully we will make that possible. All right? And how's everyone doing with this pandemic that is keeping all of us away from each other? And I think as a Jiu-Jitsu person it is very challenging, but I guess if we train Jiu-Jitsu, we're up for any challenge. And hopefully my cousin will be able to connect here with me. And once again, we have some technical issues. Hopefully we can make it. If not today, we'll see. We'll make it tomorrow. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to talk to my cousin and having some good questions that I have people that ask me to ask him, and also questions that I have towards him. And if you like Jiu-Jitsu, you like someone who made a difference in Jiu-Jitsu and with Jiu-Jitsu, here is one of them. And yes, and bear with me, guys. I'm just waiting for him to log in, and hopefully we can soon start that conversation. Have lots of questions here. Tons of questions for him. See here, lots of questions. And yes, I'm missing training Jiu-Jitsu. That means I've been training Jiu-Jitsu with my imaginary partner. It's like almost like you feel when people do Tai Chi. I'm doing Jiu-Jitsu Chi, and evidently exercise and trying to stay healthy and staying healthy to make sure when we come back better than ever. And we're pretty close to come back to our normal lives, I would say. And I think I appreciate so much more of life. But I'm hanging in there. I'm waiting. Soon my cousin's gonna jump in. Man, if who's winning, it's kind of a tie. Me and my partner. Man, we've been after each other, and for sure I sweat a lot. He makes me sweat a lot. And hope everyone out there and around the world. I see a lot of people from Brazil, Spain, local guys here, my students. Hope everybody's okay. And yes, very soon we're gonna be back doing what we're born to do, right? Hopefully here I have my my cousin jumping in. Since early this morning we have some technical issues. We're trying to make it happen right now, and we'll see. And how's life is for all of you guys without Jiu-Jitsu, eh? Without seeing your training partner, without getting choked, or without choking someone, or armbar someone, or being in a challenge situation. And let's see here, I'm just hanging in there. Pretty soon I'll have my guest will be jumping in, and we will continue the conversation. And I think it's important that we, in this time of so much negative news or even negative attitudes is still, we need some people that say better things to us, right? To make us see the light on the end of the tunnel. It's not the end of the tunnel. We are right on the beginning, and it's already a lot of light there. And yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping my cousin will make possible and we're able to connect as soon as he jump in, and you guys will see. And we're gonna have some relaxed conversation, you know. It's not, people say interview. I do not interview anyone. We just have a chat. And most principle mindset, Jiu-Jitsu principles to the Jiu-Jitsu mindset, I think we feel confident, make us strong from inside out, you know. It's not that we don't have fear of things, but we don't let fear interfere in anything in our lives, you know. I think it's the better you know how to deal with fear, the happier you're going to be and the more successful you're going to be able to achieve. And that's what I tell my students every class. I say, look, all you need is just to believe in yourself, man. If you believe in yourself, it's no excuse for you not to make it happen. Doesn't matter what color or what country or where you come from, or it's a matter of how much you actually really want. And I think Jiu-Jitsu gives us so much of that, so much belief and confidence. And yeah, guys, bear with me. I hope Roger, Gracie can make it. You know, once again, we have some technical issues here connecting us. Let's see if I can, let me get my glass here. Man, people ask me if I think every day, every train is a competition. You know, competition is something fun regardless who are you fighting with. Man, people from Italy, Costa Rica, well, thank you guys for joining us and be with us. These trying times, there is so much to enjoy. Man, keep in mind, all of you guys right now are in a privileged situation, man. You do Jiu-Jitsu, and people from Ireland, Jiu-Jitsu gave us so much leverage in terms of how to deal better with life and challenge situations. And I think all the Jiu-Jitsu people are doing, Minas Gerais, Brazil, all the people, Jiu-Jitsu people are doing great, you know. And we're going to make it, man. It's sooner or later, everything's going to open up again, and we're going to continue our lives better than ever. I think we learned so much from what are our good things that we like to do in life. And it's now, as soon as they allow us to open up, we're right on. I'm so happy. A lot of my affiliates, a lot of the schools that are in affiliation schools, they already opened their schools, they're already teaching. I could see the students are so happy. Everybody was so in need of training Jiu-Jitsu or go outside, you know. And man, it's incredible. I think it's Jiu-Jitsu is essential, don't you think? Don't you think Jiu-Jitsu is essential more than liquor stores? I guess. I think with Jiu-Jitsu, liquor stores. I think I'll go Jiu-Jitsu. But it's all good. I think it's we're in a learning process right now. And yeah, hopefully, don't go anywhere. Hopefully he'll have my cousin jumping in very soon. And meanwhile, I'm talking to you guys. If you guys have any questions right here, right now, I think I can read and I can answer some of the questions. I know, I agree. I mean, who tells and what is essential, not essential? It makes no sense to me. And I think Jiu-Jitsu is it's part of the family. It's part of who we are, who we became after we start training, the friends that we made, the lessons that we learned. And that's why I'm saying all of you guys are in. What was the greatest lesson you learned from Hollis Gracie? Man, I have to say that I haven't had much contact. I was too young. But one of the greatest lessons is how he was able to deal with his fear. That was amazing. It's like no fear. It's incredible. And let me see here. Someone they're going back to Marcelo Horto. Oh, yeah, I remember. Oh, campeão. É, do lado da churrascaria Torão, isso mesmo. Tenho saudade desses tempos. It's never too late for anything in life. You're 24, man, you're still so young, and you think about competing now. Here we go, talking to one of the greatest right now, Roger Gracie.
Fala,
Meu primo querido. Eu não sei se é primo ou é sobrinho. Eu sou um pouquinho mais velho que você.
É um primo sobrinho.
Então, pô, vou falar inglês. Tem muita gente aqui que quer falar inglês.
Fechado.
Roger Gracie, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu fighters of all time. I hear that all the time, and I have to agree with. Your father is a black belt under Hollis Gracie, if I'm not wrong, Maurição. Your mom, my cousin, she's one of the toughest cousins we grew up with. But the impressive thing to me, Roger, is not the amount of titles that you accomplished in Jiu-Jitsu. I think was how you did it, because it's incredible in a family of so many incredible fighters, to be a member of the Gracie family, man, you have so many people ahead of you. And you're already born in that family, you are part of the history. But the amazing thing is, among all those fighters, we have few that are able to write their own chapter in this amazing family that we have. And without a doubt, the way you did it, because everyone that is speaking, and I use as an example of how important it is to have good foundation in Jiu-Jitsu, the basic techniques that allow us to learn more advanced movements. But I think you make the simple very advanced and the advanced very simple. Because every time we look and watch your fights, we in a way can tell how it's going to end, because we know it's going to end. Different than most of the fighters we see today. I know Jiu-Jitsu has a lot of evolution, but I think one of the marks that you're going to live forever is that no one does the basics so advanced and so basic the way you do, Jorge. Explain that to us, man, because everyone knows he's going to take you down, he's going to pass your guard, he's going to mount, and he's going to choke you. We all know that. That's why we all go to watch, because what is lacking today is submission. And that's why I'm saying all the accomplishment, the titles that you have, amazing. But how you did it makes above the charts. Then it's incredible. How you were able to make the simple so good. Tell me.
It's, I was thinking that, the other day, like a lot of people ask me, what about my jiu-jitsu, why it's so simple, if it's a family thing that they tell us to just practice the basics. I think that the basic is the base of your game. It's very important to have a good structure, and then that can support everything that you put on top of it. I think that's number one. And I was raised with how can I say that? It's knowing the importance of the basic. I think that was always very strong. And I need to have, you can have a lot of fancy and advanced moves, but you need to know the simplicity. It's the exposure. Is you want to expose yourself doing a crazy move that somebody's gonna get into trouble. So, and I think one of the reasons that I developed the basics so well, it was because I moved to England. I was very young. I was 20 years old when I came to England and opened my school. So when I came here, I didn't have high level people to train with. The only person that I had that were good high level, my level to train was Braulio, that he moved to England at the same time as me, and we had the same belt, he had the same age, sort of. So he was my training partner, but he lived like 2 hours away. So generally, I have to daily to practice with my students. And I was very young. I was still competing in the highest level. So I didn't have, let's say, that many high-level people to train with that they would come with fancy moves. So the way that I did it, I developed everything that I knew to the highest level I could. And I think one of it wasn't conscious. I think I never really knew consciously why my game was so basic, because no one ever told me, and I never consciously thought that I had to practice the basic. That never crossed my mind, that the basic that's important. I never thought that. It happened during my life of training that I developed the jiu-jitsu I had. So I was thinking the other day, why it happened. And I think a strong part of it was because I moved to England very young, and I was still, competitor. I still want to compete against the best. So I just had to practice everything I knew to the highest level.
Because one thing that I will go back, but I want to ask you this, because at your time competing that you won, how many world titles you have? 10. And the opponents you have, they're not easy guys. All the guys that in your era you fought are the best of what we have. They're really good guys, and they have different games than you have, but it's still you overcome all their, I wouldn't say fancy jiu-jitsu, but modern in a way, and were able with the very simple steps shutting down everyone's game and succeed. Because a lot of great guys at your time, but unfortunately for them, it was Roger Gracie at the same time. I mean, a lot of the guys, they could be a lot bigger than they were, but unfortunately for them, it was your time, and we noticed that in a lot of sessions in jiu-jitsu history, we have a lot of great fighters, but one outstands and overshadow everyone. And that was your case, because a lot of guys that you fought, a lot of great guys, could not overcome and with all the movements that fence or whatever they have against you. And that what makes so amazing is that basic that people always, basic, you come to shit basic. Man, if you know the basics, you know jiu-jitsu. And I think that's what people missing so much today is lack of the basic movements, and they come up with so many movements that very few people can actually do. Let's go back in time here, Roger. I want to ask you, when did you start training jiu-jitsu? Who brought you into jiu-jitsu? I know, but maybe a lot of people do not know.
So, I mean, I started very young. I don't remember the first time I started training. I was talking to my dad, for sure it was with him. Same way that happens with my kid. Before he ever put a gi on, I already got him mounted on me, practice arm lock. Even before he actually even know what he was doing arm lock on me. So, the first time the first time that I had my first jiu-jitsu experience, I was about 1-2 years old, so I think I used to think frequently, the first academy that I was going to, It was Hillian, my
Helium.
uncle Hillian, your cousin. Yeah, I remember going to him very young. Him and Renzo, while Renzo had his academy in Ipanema before he moved to New York, that
Yeah.
Gracie Ipanema. I used to go there train with him, but I was slightly older. I think as a kid, Hillian was my first main teacher.
And how is like for you growing up and have so many people in the family that you met all of them, but a lot of them you heard stories from them. How was that for you? Slowly going through and see so many good examples I had before you. How is that for you growing up in a family of so many incredible fighters, all of them different in a way?
I think for me, he always worked as an inspiration. Knowing the past, the generations before me, and I mean, of course, the people that I could see, I could see them, but the past generation, they always inspired me to succeed, to be just as good as them, to see how well they did, how big they got. And I think that was just is our inspiration, to try to get to their levels.
And how is like what made you decide? Because I know 20 years old, man, you're very young. Why are you moving to England? Why you decide? Because you were accomplished so much in Brazil already in such young age, and why I'm gonna go to UK?
Because my daughter is knocking at the door. Pode pedaço. Só, você já jantou já. Mas eu tô no telefone. Vai pra lá, beijo, tchau. Pode, vai, o que você quiser lá. My daughter asked me if she can have a slice of pizza. So, where were you? I got
Yeah, why in Brazil?
Why England? So
yeah,
my father,
why England?
yeah, so he moved to he opened his school in England when I was a teenager. I think I was 15 or 16 years old. I think 15. He came here and he opened his school, so he lived here for a few years. And back then I was still at school, so I was every summer holidays I had, I used to come here and spend there with him, like a few weeks, let's say 2 months. And I did that for a few years. And then he moved back to Brazil. And I think it was the same time I was getting my black belt, and I used to live with Igor and Hollis in Rio. And then they both, Igor was going to New York to
Yes.
stay with Renzo, and Hollis went right after them. And at the same time, I had the opportunity to come to England to open an academy. There's one of our friends was my father's student too, and it happened that suddenly he offered to help us to help me to open my school here. Me and my dad was in Brazil, but then I moved here. And I think originally I never really thought I'm moving to England for good, because I was 20 years old and I'm still a competitor, and my priority was still to train and compete. So initially, yes, I'm going to open the school. I'm going to keep that as my base, but then so that the academy will sustain me for me to travel anywhere else I want to go. If I want to go train for how many time I have to. So I opened this school. I had a friend, a black belt, that was helping me teach, so I could leave him running the academy and I could go anywhere.
Who promotes you as a black belt, Roger?
Carlinhos.
Carlinhos? Carlinhos too. Oh, we all got black belt from him.
Yeah, he gave me all my belt from blue, purple, brown, black.
All the, and you still competitive from all the time and traveling. What made you also? It's something that who's in the family that said something to you, or you have stories that you keep in your mind, or examples or phrases that you were able to keep with you, like from to Carlos, your grandfather, from your mom, your dad, for Helium, for Renzo. Which are the things that you heard in the family? Because we talk so much about everything. People think we do jiu-jitsu only we in the academy. No, we do jiu-jitsu all day, talking to our uncles and cousins. Is there any few things from family members that you remember? And also, who are the family members that you use that inspires you to keep doing what you're doing?
I think many people in our family inspire me in some way. You know, I always inspire myself with the with the champions we had. Let's say with the best of every generation, because when I start training, I want to be the best. Not the best inside the family. You know, not, that it never crossed my mind to be the best inside the family, because that means I would have to compete against my family members. So that I didn't really care who's the best in the family. You know, I always train to be the best, regardless. You know, the family is like we are one. You know, there's no two. So it doesn't matter if I have a cousin who's better than me. I mean, now I'm a big competitor. I'll be the best competitor I can. So everyone who got to the top, he always inspired me a lot. I always look back in the past, you know, to see what they did to achieve what they achieved, you know. And I think each one kind of teach you something different, because I don't have like a phrase that's stuck in my mind that someone told me that I kept with me. I think small things that motivated me and made me who I am. I think some I got a huge influence of some of them. He learned a lot because I learned with him when he was young, and he was the person that made me want to be a champion, because I went to see him in the south of Brazil one of my school holidays, and I stayed there with him a few weeks, and I think I was 14 years old. I was not training. I was like a chubby kid, like I used to train like very little. I was like in the jiu-jitsu life, I was like a no, just like one more. Chub, didn't compete much. Like my jiu-jitsu was nothing special. I used to go to the academy. There was like, dozens of other kids much better than me. So, and there was no expectation of anyone on my part. So I went to see him. And when I got there, Hollis was living with him. And Hollis was a few years older than me. He was already like a purple belt competitor, training to compete. And then suddenly I saw with my own eyes daily, the what it means to wake up, eat well, exercise, train. We used to go to waterfall, and then we used to go to the academy to eat, and then we used to leave the academy, talk about training, discuss like technical things. I mean, I was too young to discuss anything, but I used to hear what Helen was telling, his students and Hollis, and he was used to tell me, he used to look at Hollis, man, Hollis will be a heavyweight champion. You should be a middleweight champion, like middle heavy, like train, like telling me, you need to train.
I don't think he knew you're going to grow that much too.
No, no, he didn't. So suddenly I got back to Rio with a changed mind. At that point on, I was like, this is my mission,
And did you ever thought you would become so well known around the world and become the champion that you are today? Did you ever imagine that? And I know that was kind of almost a wake-up call for you to understand the meaning to know jiu-jitsu for all the family members. Did you ever imagine going
Not
back
really.
like
No, I
where
never.
you are today?
No, the only thing that I imagine that it's almost like you set a goal to yourself, like I told myself back then when I was like 14, I got back to Rio, I start training. The next year I got back to live with Helen Crawling, then I was with both of them in the South. And back then with 15 years old, I told myself I'll be a champion. I'll be the best in the world. That's the only vision I had. I didn't imagine how that would be, because I had no idea, and I did not create any image of that. Like, how would that be being a champion, like being famous? I had no idea, and I never create an expectation on that aspect. I just told myself I'll be a champion. I'll be the best in the world, and that was always my mission.
It seems like we know in everyone in the family, it's almost like when you achieve your black belt, you have to go and do vale tudo. It's something that is on the blood in the family. Okay, I reached these titles and all of this, but I want more. Or maybe that is the tradition on the family. when did you realize or you thought about to make that transition to Jiu-Jitsu to do MMA?
So what you were saying was exactly what I had in my mind back then when I decided to, train to, to have this as part of my life. I knew at some point next step would be MMA because that's the way of every Gracie. That's what a Gracie does. He trains, he gets good at it, get his black belt, so that means he's technically ready. And the next step after that is to go fight MMA. Let's put it to the test. So I knew I would have to do that. So I never had as a extremely pressuring myself that, oh, I have to and fighting against. For me, it was just that's a natural way that I'll know at some point I'll have to do. And that was exactly what happened, when I was thinking 2006, I had my first fight. After I got my black belt, I started doing well in tournaments, and then, boom, now let's go fight MMA.
Roger, is all on your fight, Jiu-Jitsu, even MMA, what would be the mindset before you go into a Jiu-Jitsu tournament? How would you kind of, your thoughts before those fights? As you know, it's always a pressure in a way because you represent not only yourself, you represent the whole family. Then the family expects all the family members to be the best as they can be. How is that on your mind? It's like, man, I'm going to the tournament and my shoulders are heavy or my shoulders are light. I know the training helps so much, but how was the mindset for you before those fights?
I think the day before or right before, the mindset is like it's not to think about it. It's the more you think, the more nervous you get. Your emotions will get in the way. So it's never the adrenaline kicks in. Every time a day before, if you think of the fight, the next day your heart will and then you're nervous. It's normal. It happens every time. Every time you think about it, you're nervous. Your heart accelerates, and then suddenly, you start thinking of the fight. You get nervous. That's the way it is. There's no avoiding that. So the way that I learn how to deal with is not to think of, because there's nothing I can do the day before that's going to help me tomorrow. Absolutely nothing. And the more nervous I get, actually is going to play against me tomorrow, because that means my energy, my body's burning energy. My muscles are getting tired. So, walking into any fight, especially the day of the fight, it's try to stay as calm as possible. There's no stress, and don't think about it, distract. I always listen to some music, stretch, do like a good warm up, and, just keep your mind as open as you can to when you fight, you can perform the best way. I think that's how I learned how to deal with.
What is, like, I would say, Jiu-Jitsu means to you, Roger? I know basically some of the answers you're going to give, but what that means, Jiu-Jitsu means to you. It's almost hard to separate Jiu-Jitsu and Gracie, because you cannot say one word separate than the others. But let me separate now. What Jiu-Jitsu means to you?
I think it means there was my biggest teacher, that's for sure. The biggest teacher I could ever had, Jiu-Jitsu. I've learned with everything that Jiu-Jitsu it's all about. You learn about yourself, you learn about your body, you learn about others, you learn how you perceive other people, because there's a lot of feeling that you can see about yourself. It's what kind of person you are. Everything shows when you're training. It's difficult to show once, but after you've been doing years and years and years, that means the same pattern happens over and over again. So your personality will be right there in front of you for you to see. So it's, you almost learn how to be a better person because you can correct yourself during life, and Jiu-Jitsu will show you that. And at the same time, I can see on myself, I can see in other people. If they're anxious, if they're nervous, if they're good guys, if they're bad guys, it will reflect when they're training. And that's, it's one of the things. And I think is the security that brings inside you, not in terms of I can fight anyone. It's nothing about that. I've been in so many extreme situations with my nerves, with my adrenaline. It's, challenges, how many huge challenges I face inside the mat, how many huge guys, sometimes I'm that tired, you've been in extremely bad positions, how you deal with when you're almost dying in a way. They got a big guy sitting, on you, you can't breathe, you're getting suffocated. What do I do? Do I tap? Do I panic? Or keep a clear mind? Let me work my way out. How you deal with those situations, I think they are the biggest things, it can happen when you overcome those things. And you so many of those situations that it's like you're used to it. There's no meeting that will get me too nervous. It's nutrition. You learn. It's, if I'm not eating well, you will feel that your body is something wrong with it. When you train, it will tell you. If you're eating well, you will train the result when you're doing it, physical training jiu-jitsu.
Is there one or maybe two or three any fights that you had that marked on you in a good thing, in a good way? So, man, that fight was one of the most important for me because at that time I wasn't like this, I was like that. Is there any specific moment or fight that you had that marked on you in a very positive way?
Yeah, it did. I had the first one that I had in my mind was when I fought Demian Maia. I was a brown belt, he was a black belt. We faced each other in a Brazilian national teams tournament in São Paulo. And because it was a time that I was still a brown belt. So I'm not even a black belt yet. And my level was already quite good, but I'm not even a black belt. I'm getting there. So I have a lot to prove. And the national teams is a tournament that brown and black fights together. So you're fighting against, let's say you're fighting against the elites now, but you're not the elite yet. You're still brown. So you still have a river to prove yourself. And Demian Maia, he was already a black belt, I think, for maybe 2 years or 3. I'm not sure. But he was already well known. He's well known. He was doing really well already. And then suddenly I'm like, I need to win. And not because just me now, because it's the last fight of my team. If I lose, my team lose. So I'm like, it's all on me. And I'm brown belt. So there was a lot pressure that I need to go and win. So it was the fight that usually I'm very slow started. I take my time a little bit on the beginning. On that fight, I was like straight on. The minute that the referee say go, I'm like 100 miles an hour. So, it was a great fight. It was there and back a lot. For a few minutes, I was like losing. And I was that tired and I'm still losing. And suddenly I overcome. I reversed the points close to the final. And then I won the match. So that fight always stuck in my mind. There was when I fought Sam Perry, it was a big fight because it was my first fight as a black belt, my first no-gi fight, fighting against Amaro, ADCC 2003 in São Paulo. So I think that fight, usually you get nervous before the fight, but when the fight's about to start and the referee say go, you kind of forget about it, and then you don't even remember if you're nervous anymore. But I remember when the referee say go, my heart was still beating fast. And I remember that clearly because I just got my black belt and I'm fighting Zé Mario. I was a blue belt watching him compete as a black belt. It's a big name in jiu-jitsu. I had a huge history in the ADCC, so I fought him. I think when I fought the fight that I had with Jacare, that I broke his arm.
Yeah,
that fight there's a big mark on me. And my last fight, if I would have choose against Abushisha, those fights are the one that it kind of is the one that stays in my mind more than the others.
Yeah, I know in a way that you guys had 2 fights. And the first fight, I know you're sick and have a lot of the things happen people did not know. But I think the second one was to show how advanced or your simple game is. Now, Roger, one question to you is...
Just 1 second, just 1 second.
No problem.
I got this.
Oh, tudo bem?
My cousin, meu primo. Fala oi.
Tudo bom? Tudo bem?
W23NA. Say again. Fala de novo.
W23NA.
Uma pergunta bem simples para você, Roger. Who is Roger Gracie?
Who is Roger Gracie?
Yes.
A very simple person. A very... well, who is Roger Gracie? It's simple and complex. You know, I can't say I'm the most simple person there is. But I'm a very competitive person, but in a good way. Always trying to, I would say, achieve greatness, but not greatness in the way to achieve things. Let's say, to be the best person I can be. So I see life the same way that I had the evolution of Jiu-Jitsu. You know, life is about evolution. Is, you know, you train, the more you train, the better you become. And the more I live, the better I want to be, you know? So.
I think I'm going to make some more compliments on who is Roger, maybe from other sides of other people saying. Well, Roger, I remember when you're born, you know, I went to Búzios many times with your mom and your dad to babysit you and your sister, Vanessa. I was there so many times. And we know something that everyone in the family that has a mission, has a special gift, because the people that you surround yourself with, it makes all of these compact, and evidently each member takes that in a different way, member of the family. I think you are, in your generation, in your time, you made so unique your Jiu-Jitsu that, I mean, anybody can learn your Jiu-Jitsu. We don't know how well they're going to do what you know. Because I think, as you mentioned, you're teaching so many people the basics that you became expert in those basic movements. That's why it's very advanced. A lot of people don't realize that. But you get advanced, you have to start from the beginning. I think you're part of this amazing family that is already a history for the rest of the world. The world knows who the Gracie family is today. Very challenged for all the members to write their own chapter, to make their own history. And in the Jiu-Jitsu field, for sure, man, you're way far ahead of so many, because how you did it, you know? It's incredible, not the amount of titles, but how you made those, end those fights. And I have so many people here, all my students, that they want to meet you one day. You know, you are not just Roger Gracie. You become a legend in what we do. And you become also a legend inside the family, which is a big family and very, I would say, challenged to get into that spot. And no doubt you made that and become an example for so many of us. So many fans. I am one of your fans.
Thank you so much.
Because I know how simple person you are, you know, how quiet guy you are, how, when I say simple, is you don't change because who you became, how many titles you have, you're still the same person as many years back, which is very challenging to see people with so much success to be normal or to be nice. And I think you learned the Jiu-Jitsu for sure on the mat and outside the mat. Rojão, porra, muito obrigado, cara. Muito legal, porra. Muito orgulhoso de poder ver todo esse seu desenvolvimento, esse seu crescimento no jiu-jitsu. De ver você, quando pequeno, jiu-jitsu era uma forma de brincadeira, hoje em dia é um estilo de vida. E de você estar passando isso adiante para todos os seus alunos e sendo esse exemplo de pessoa que você se tornou. Entendeu? Pô, muito obrigado mesmo, bacana. Pô, dá um abraço, um beijão no teu pai, no Maurição. E, pô, na tua mãe, não sei se a tua mãe tá aí. A Reila tá no Brasil ou tá aí?
Tá no Brasil, tá no Brasil.
Entendeu? Pô, muito bacana mesmo. Parabéns pelo todo o seu sucesso. Você continue sendo você, do jeito que você é, campeão. Valeu?
Jean,
Beijão
valeu
mesmo,
mesmo, cara.
saudade. Pô,
Beijo
espero
grande. Pô,
em
eu lembro
breve.
muito daquela vez, eu tinha 14 anos, pô, fui passar minhas férias aí com vocês, nunca mais esqueci, pô.
Eu lembro, cara,
Momentos, pô,
passou com o
foi
Riga lá.
uma experiência muito legal, fiquei lá com o Rigão, com o Roger,
É isso
muito,
aí,
muito
cara.
legal. Tomei um amasso teu, que eu lembro que a gente treinou.
Cara, pô, bons tempos. Eu não sei se isso nos dias de hoje. Nos dias de hoje foi meio difícil,
Muito legal.
mas bacana, cara, ver você, a transformação que você teve, porque até porque naquela época que você passou aqui, o jiu-jitsu não era uma coisa principal na sua vida. E eu tenho certeza que você não tinha noção do que você viria se tornar e se tornou esse campeão do dia de hoje. Tá bom, cara?
Quero saber treinar muito. Quero saber tomar sorvete.
Porra, um beijão, cara. Fica com
Valeu.
Deus, tá?
Um beijo grande.
Valeu, Rojão.
Valeu.
Obrigado, campeão. Fica com
Nada,
Deus.
pô. Abraço grande.